The progress of human civilization has reached another critical crossroads, and the Second Enlightenment is imminent. The Renaissance opened a new era from theocracy to the rule of law, but today, party politics is moving further and further away from true democratic politics. Many people, including some politicians who consider themselves elites, mistakenly believe that theocracy and dictatorship are more efficient and clean-fingered than democracy and the rule of law. A distorted trend where wise monarch is seen as superior to democracy is harming people's cognition and destroying the modern civilization that gradually developed after the First Enlightenment, a civilization that upholds universal values. Sulin. Be guided by God. Author's Preface I. It only takes one step backward for civilization to regress into barbarism, easy, but the journey from barbarism to civilization requires thousands of years of evolution, difficult. Ancient Chinese civilization once led the world, and thus the Great Wall was built to defend against the barbaric, backward nomadic tribes of the north, with a dream of a peaceful and secure existence behind closed doors. However, the result was that for thousands of years, the civilization was continuously plagued by barbaric invasions from the north. At best, it was the chaos brought by the 5 barbarians; at worst, it was the destruction of the nation and the annihilation of its people. Some have even claimed that after the Battle of Yashan, there was no more real China. The history of reunification throughout the dynasties was always about the North uniting the South, where the strong crossbows and curved blades of the North proved superior to the hoes and paintbrushes of the South. Although Chinese civilization repeatedly struggled to recover from destruction, it was never able to escape the constant destruction and suppression from barbarism. This turbulent and shaky journey continued all the way to the late Qing dynasty, where due to prolonged stagnation and lack of progress, Chinese civilization had evolved into one of the most barbaric and backward states in the world. The defeat of ancient Chinese civilization was not brought about by the foreign powers' guns and cannons, but by our own ignorant and backward political systems and the quality of our people. Civilization is often fragile in the face of barbarism. It is my hope that today's democratic and law-based civilizations will not repeat the fall of ancient Chinese civilization when faced with the barbaric, autocratic states. The policies of hiding one's strength and biding time, or appeasement, can only nurture disaster, even aiding tyranny, and will inevitably lead to self-destruction. Apart from armed threats and invasions, the scourge of pandemics is another dangerous signal, and the infiltration of autocratic regimes into civilized nations and organizations is pervasive. This, coupled with acts of terrorism, sabotage, assassination plots, and subversion, puts the people of democratic nations and the dissidents relying on democratic states in an unprotected and vulnerable position. The slightest crack in the dam can lead to its collapse. Democratic nations must unite to decisively curb and eliminate all forms of autocratic tyranny, delivering blows to barbaric regimes across political, economic, military, technological, cultural, media, and industrial fields, even to the point of eradicating them. Otherwise, the prospects for civilized nations will be bleak, with dire consequences ahead. Author's Preface II. The Chinese overseas democracy movement has a history of over 40 years. According to reports, the democratic activists who had just fled from Communist Party rule were initially united by a shared sense of anger, indignation, and a desire for justice, human rights and freedom. They passionately made speeches, wrote books, listing the crimes of the Chinese Communist Party's CCP, authoritarian regime. Over time, they formed various associations and even provisional governments. They organized protests, marches, and petitions to denounce the CCP's reactionary tyranny, urging Western democracies and the United Nations to focus on China's human rights and the rule of law. They gained the sympathy and support of the vast majority of Westerners and overseas Chinese, with numerous patriotic Chinese individuals generously contributing to their cause. The overseas democracy movement seemed to become an important driving force, even a leading one, in pushing China toward democracy. But what is the current state of the overseas democracy movement? It can be summarized as one of desolation and decline. The organizations are disorganized, with factions splitting off and attacking each other. A senior leader of the movement, overseas Chinese, especially those who once participated in the democracy movement, many of whom emigrated through Tiananmen Square blood cards, have now become the greatest obstacle to China's path toward democracy. Many of them, shamelessly and eagerly, collude with the corrupt CCP regime, seeking power and profit, using the name of overseas Chinese to play both sides. What exactly happened? I think the reasons are as follows. 1. Many who fled China, particularly those who immigrated through the Tiananmen blood cards, reportedly numbering in the millions, never had a high level of awareness or vision. Their understanding of democratic societies and the rule of law was shallow, and many of them immigrated simply to escape poverty and seek wealth. Once they settled in democratic nations, they no longer cared about the political system or leadership in China. As long as they could make money and live comfortably, they were willing to compromise with the CCP, perhaps even thinking that such a compromise would allow them to return to China in glory, becoming successful figures. Such people would easily withdraw from democracy organizations and activities. When the CCP offers them favors, they are likely to eagerly swarm like flies, even groveling. The harm these traitors caused to Theoversia's democracy movement is significant and comparable to the damage caused by Wu Songui leading the Qing army into China. 2. There is a group of steadfast anti-communist Democrats overseas who resolutely refuse to align with the CCP's dictatorship. They form various organizations, publish newspapers and magazines, write books, and even establish radio stations or websites to vigorously promote democracy and expose the darkness of the CCP regime. However, they often focus more on exposing and criticizing the CCP, only breaking the old, not building the new. Because of China's information blockade and rampant rumors, they often resort to unverified or unverifiable truths to demonize the CCP, predicting its rapid and inevitable collapse. The actions of these democracy activists are primarily motivated by righteous indignation, with some even carrying personal grievances. Although their arguments sound firm and determined, after hearing them for a long time, many people inevitably become weary and mock these activists as the bedroom listeners of Zhongnanhai. It becomes unavoidable for many to lose interest in or withdraw from the movement. 3. The vast majority of overseas democracy activists initially joined the movement with great enthusiasm, many of them struggling to even support their own living expenses. They had to rely on self-raised funds for their activities. Over time, some of them, with low aspirations or weak willpower, were no longer able to continue. Occasionally, they received large financial contributions. For example, it is said that the early Taiwanese government had special funds to support the mainland's democracy movement. However, when faced with greedy or ambitious individuals, conflicts over the management and allocation of funds emerged. Once issues such as the lack of transparency in fund usage or ideological disagreements arose, the loose organizational structure, with little constraint, would most likely lead to organizational splits and members parting ways. 4. Due to a misjudgment by democratic nations, led by the United States, regarding the CCP's reform and opening up policies, they naively believed that if China's economy were developed, its democratization process would naturally progress. As a result, in response to the June 4th massacre, they only issued symbolic criticisms and objections for a while before quickly adopting a policy of appeasement and fully cooperating with the CCP. Of course, China's large market and cheap labor also enticed Western powers, for whom profits outweighed concerns about democracy and human rights. Thus, large amounts of capital and advanced technology poured into China, and Western countries quickly permitted and assisted China's accession to the World Trade Organization, WTO, agreeing to let China host various international competitions and conferences, such as the Olympics and APEC, further aiding China's rapid economic development and enhancing the CCP's international political influence. The CCP, in turn, adopted a policy of biding time and hiding one's capabilities, no longer publicly discussing ideology or thoughts but focusing entirely on economic growth, launching the so-called black cat, white cat theory, while secretly continuing its repression of democracy and human rights. Many foreign individuals who supported the democracy movement, including some activists themselves, were blinded by China's economic growth, believing that China had made great progress and that the CCP leadership was competent. They even foolishly argued that if the June 4th movement had succeeded, China might not have achieved its current success. The CCP once again deceived the world's well-meaning people. The primary purpose and significance of this book is to expose the CCP's facade. 5. The CCP's nature is one of authoritarian, dictatorial rule. It is inherently backward, barbaric, and reactionary. But as my book title suggests, civilization is fragile. People living in civilized societies, especially overseas democracy activists, if they fail to recognize the CCP's true nature, will not only fail to improve their own understanding but will also be harmed by it. The CCP uses disguise and cunning to cover up its backwardness, while employing barbaric, reactionary means to suppress all justice and civilization. It uses violence and criminal methods to seize resources domestically, enslaving and exploiting the people, while internationally, it employs deceit, theft, and coercion. Regarding the democracy movement, the CCP actively divides, disintegrates, and crushes it. Its 1,000 Talents plan is designed to steal advanced technology from democratic nations, and it is likely that the CCP has a 10,000 Talents plan aimed at infiltrating and sabotaging democracy movements. In other words, there are a large number of CCP agents lurking within current democracy organizations. They undermine movement from within by creating factions, spreading rumors, and splitting organizations. They also recruit and bribe opportunists, threatening, suppressing, and even assassinating key figures within the movement. Therefore, the overseas democracy movement faces an unprecedented crisis. Since it is the most important force driving China toward democracy, the question remains, what is the way forward? In my view, the first task of the democracy movement is to arm itself intellectually, understand the direction of social development, and strengthen confidence in the democratic cause. Overseas activists should move beyond mere indignation and confusion, thoroughly shattering the CCP schemes to suppress and destroy the overseas democracy movement, awakening the vigilance of civilized nations, leading and inspiring the suffering people within China to overthrow the dictatorship and move toward true democracy and the rule of law. Author's Preface 3. The 21st century has arrived, and we have successfully crossed the threshold of the year 2000. Human society seems to be advancing in a certain direction, moving toward a fixed goal. Sometimes the pace is steady, while sometimes it stumbles, and at times it even takes a few backward steps. Yet overall, we feel good about ourselves, convinced that human civilization is progressing. However, have we truly solved all the issues and confusions that humanity faced in its early days? Problems like war, conflict, disease, epidemics, natural disaster, and hunger, have you found a way to completely resolve any of these? Occasionally, there seem to be signs of relief, but tensions can flare up suddenly, sometimes on a local scale, other times globally. So, is human society truly making continuous progress? What are the profound issues that the world, Chinese society, and we as individuals are really facing? This is precisely what I aim to tonalize, discuss, and summarize in this book. I have also attempted to propose some exploratory solutions. My knowledge is far from comprehensive, and for many events, I do not have, nor can I obtain, the most accurate information. My views are incomplete, and I fully expect that I may have made misjudgments or misinterpretations. Although I would like to clarify things fully and comprehensively, I may miss some points, and I ask for your understanding. I also welcome readers to engage with me in further discussion. While I strive to dig deep into the essence of problems and reveal some truths, some of my views and opinions might not be to everyone's taste. Yet, they may also open up new ways of thinking for some, offering profound realizations. This does not mean that I am trying to present myself as exceptionally smart or great, but rather that I have managed to view certain issues from unique perspectives, especially by elevating my thinking to a higher level. When I was young, I read Su Tumpo's poem, Inscription on the Wall of Shilin Temple. It's a range viewed and peaks viewed from the side. Assuming different shapes viewed from fair and wide. Of Mountain Lu we cannot make out the true face. For we are lost in the heart of every place. At that time, I didn't fully grasp the meaning of different views from different distances. Later, I slowly came to appreciate Su Shi's sense of helplessness in not being able to see the whole picture from a higher perspective. While it's not difficult to observe Mount Lu from various angles, close, far, or low, it was virtually impossible under the conditions of the time for Peo to get a bird's-eye view of its true form. It was too difficult to observe the mountain from a high position. Only by observing from above can one truly understand the essence and reality of things. Similarly, to truly see the truth of today's social issues, we must raise our level of thinking and spiritual awareness. Only when more and more people recognize the truth can we prevent and avoid various man-made disasters to the greatest extent. Although with the advancement of civilization, particularly through technological development, people's ability to respond, including prediction, prevention, and defense, to natural disasters has continually improved, the most terrifying disasters are still those caused by barbaric rule. Under reactionary authoritarian regimes, natural disasters will certainly bring great suffering to the people. Without natural disasters, these barbaric rulers will create man-made catastrophes that are as devastating as, or even worse than, natural disasters. There's a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. In truth, the reverse is also true. The greater the responsibility, the greater the capacity. My writing this book is driven by a sense of responsibility, one for the fate of all humanity, for the destiny of China, and for the value of my own life. This responsibility has not been imposed externally, it is entirely due to my own awakening. Therefore, I will strive to view the problems around me, both local and global, from a higher perspective and with greater objectivity. In this waken I have the inspiration to see and reveal the truth of many domestic and international issues. I hope that readers will strive to elevate their own life perspective, stepping out of the pursuit of material satisfaction, breaking free from blind worship of authority, and moving beyond simple indignation or even hatred. If more people can be inspired by this book, enhance their understanding of life's purpose, and recognize the trajectory and direction of human social development, I will feel honored and gratified. Sulin.